The ocean is full of wonders, glowing creatures, alien shapes, and things so beautiful they don't even look real. But sometimes, nature gets a little too creative. Beneath the waves are creatures that look strangely familiar, soft, fleshy, and shaped in ways that make you do a double take. They wiggle, open, and move in ways that feel almost human. Some look like lips, others like tongues, and a few. Let's just say they look like something we probably shouldn't mention on YouTube. These aren't Photoshop fakes or alien experiments. They're 100% real life forms found in our oceans, each with a story and a purpose that somehow led to a design that seems hilariously wrong. So hold your breath, because we're diving into the world of sea creatures that look a little too human and very, very wrong. Sea anemones. Sea anemones are some of the strangest creatures you'll ever come across in the ocean. At first glance, they look like delicate underwater flowers swaying in the current, but look a little closer and you'll realize they're actually living animals, and some of the ocean's most unusual predators. Their bodies are simple yet alien, a fleshy column with a central opening surrounded by dozens of tentacles. These tentacles are armed with tiny stinging cells, ready to paralyze unsuspecting shrimp or fish that drift too close. But here's where things get really curious. If you gently touch or tickle a sea anemone, you won't feel a painful sting like with a jellyfish. Instead, it feels strangely sticky or ticklish because their stingers aren't strong enough to pierce human skin. To the anemone, though, this contact feels like prey has landed, so it may quickly close up or curl its tentacles in a feeding reflex. It's like watching a flower suddenly fold into itself at your touch. And then there's their shape. Sea anemones can look inflated and balloon-like when they expand with water, or shrink into a wrinkled lump when threatened. Some resemble colorful feathery plumes, others look like alien organisms from another world. And yes, if you observe closely, many of them also bear an uncanny resemblance to human private parts. Their soft folds, puckered mouths, and fleshy textures are oddly familiar, even though they evolved for a completely different purpose. It's one of those strange overlaps in nature that makes you do a double take. Between their sticky tickle, their ability to transform shapes, their alien beauty, and their accidental resemblance to us, sea anemones blur the line between plant and animal, beautiful and unsettling, familiar and bizarre. They're a reminder that the ocean still holds some of the most surreal and puzzling life forms on Earth. Geoduck clams, the oversized appendage. Nature really has a sense of humor, and the geoduck clam might be its cheekiest creation. Found buried in the sandy seabeds of the Pacific Northwest, this massive clam is famous for one thing: its shape. With a long, wrinkled siphon that stretches awkwardly out of its shell, it looks exactly like a human body part most people don't expect to see at the beach. Once you spot the resemblance, there's no going back. But don't let appearances fool you. The geoduck isn't a joke. It's one of the largest burrowing clams on Earth, living for over 100 years and weighing several kilograms. That appendage serves a serious purpose. It helps the clam breathe and feed while staying safely buried deep in the seabed. Still, the sight of it poking out of the sand has startled many first-time divers and left biologists chuckling at its uncanny design. In some cultures, the geoduck is considered a delicacy and even an aphrodisiac, which, given how it looks, feels oddly fitting. It's one of those creatures that remind us just how strange, funny, and uncomfortable nature can be when it starts to blur the line between biology and imagination. Priapulid worms, nature's dirty joke. If you thought geoducks were awkward, meet the Priapulid worms, the ocean's most literal case of nature having a laugh. Their name comes straight from the Greek word for phallus, and once you see one, it's impossible not to understand why. These cylindrical, fleshy worms wriggle and burrow through mud and sediment, often looking uncannily suggestive at every twist and turn. Despite their comical appearance, Priapulid worms are anything but useless. They are ancient survivors, having thrived for hundreds of millions of years. Their tubular, flexible bodies allow them to dig efficiently into the seafloor, creating burrows where they hunt tiny prey like small crustaceans and detritus. Their burrowing also helps aerate the sediment, making them unsung heroes of the benthic ecosystem. What makes them even more fascinating is their reproductive strategy. Many species release eggs and sperm into the water column, relying on currents to spread the next generation, an efficient if slightly messy way to keep their lineage going. Yet despite their efficiency and evolutionary success, the first reaction most humans have when encountering a Priapulid worm is a mixture of shock, disbelief, and awkward laughter. Their uncanny resemblance to a human body part reminds us that evolution doesn't follow rules of modesty or aesthetics. Nature creates for survival first, humor second, and sometimes the result is a creature that's both fascinating and hilariously inappropriate looking. In short, Priapulid worms are proof that the ocean doesn't just hide mysteries, it hides creatures that can make even the most seasoned biologists do a double take. Sea cucumbers, the saggy tubes. At first glance, sea cucumbers might seem harmless, just squishy, elongated blobs resting on the ocean floor. But look closer, and their strange, fleshy forms start to feel familiar. Their chubby, wrinkled bodies with soft folds and strange textures often earn them comparisons to human skin or body parts, making even experienced divers do a double take. And then there's their defense mechanism. When threatened, some sea cucumbers literally eject their internal organs in a sticky, slimy mess to distract predators. It's as if nature decided to make them even more bizarre, combining the uncanny shapes with a grotesque survival tactic. Amazingly, these organs regenerate, leaving the cucumber ready for round 2 of survival. Sea cucumbers are proof that the ocean can be both fascinating and uncomfortably strange. Soft, squishy, and unexpectedly dramatic, they are living reminders that the deeper you dive, the weirder nature gets. Horse conch, the giant tongue. The horse conch is one of the biggest, strangest, and most unsettling things you can find resting on the ocean floor. At first glance, its shell is huge, elegant, and perfectly spiraled, like a classic seashell that belongs on a collector's shelf. But this gentle first impression vanishes the moment the animal inside decides to move. Out slides a massive, fleshy, reddish-orange foot that looks less like a body part and more like a giant, slimy tongue stretching out to explore the world. Its sheer size and color, a shocking orange-red against the sand, often makes divers stop dead in the water, wondering if they've just witnessed something from an alien planet. Despite this hilariously bizarre, floppy appearance, the horse conch is actually the largest snail in American waters and an apex predator of the shallows, sometimes growing up to 2 feet long. That giant, ridiculous-looking foot is actually a powerful muscle it uses for more than just sliding around. It uses the foot to quickly track and ambush other snails, including large ones like tulip snails and whelks. When it catches its prey, the horse conch's method is brutal. It uses its huge foot to smother and pin down the victim, pressing it firmly against the seabed, then slowly begins to eat the helpless snail right out of its shell. This creature perfectly embodies how wild and unpredictable nature can be. You have a shell that is considered a beautiful treasure. It's even the official state shell of Florida. But the animal that carries it is a slow-motion horror show of squishy, bright orange predation. The horse conch is a true original, a living lesson that in evolution, success doesn't require following our rules of decency or looking conventionally cool. Sometimes the weirdest, most tongue-like creature is the one that sits on top of the food chain, reminding us that the ocean is full of both fascinating grace and wonderfully grotesque success. Gooseneck barnacles, rows of fingers. If the horse conch was a bizarre giant tongue, the gooseneck barnacle is nature's way of giving the ocean a set of eerily misplaced human fingers. These creatures aren't found sliding across the sand, but rather clinging tightly to any solid surface they can find, be it a massive ocean rock, the hull of a ship, or a barnacle-encrusted pier post. They anchor themselves with a thick, fleshy stalk that extends their feeding mouth into the water current. From a distance, a cluster of these barnacles might just look like an interesting brown, shaggy growth swaying in the tide. But when you get up close, the details are what truly unsettle the observer. The stalk is long and rubbery, and the head end, which holds the actual organism, is covered in plates. Together, the stalk and plates give the barnacle its common name because the whole structure looks a bit like a goose's neck. More unnerving, though, is when they are seen in dense rows. They truly resemble clusters of severed fingers or even a row of bizarre, hard teeth jutting out from the rock. It's an appearance that makes you feel like you've stumbled onto a forgotten prop from a science fiction movie set under the sea. Despite their strangely grotesque and unsettling look, these barnacles are completely harmless and peaceful. They are filter feeders, meaning they simply use tiny, feathery legs to comb microscopic food, plankton, out of the water. Their unsettling form is just a result of evolution designing the perfect anchor and a perfect sifter. The gooseneck barnacle is a bizarre reminder that when evolution gets creative, the results are sometimes both functional and completely creepy, proving that the ocean's aesthetics rarely follow human taste. Velvet worms, the crawling skin folds. The velvet worm is a creature so strange it seems to defy biological classification. Found slinking across the damp floors of tropical forests, these invertebrates are often brightly colored, yet their true strangeness lies in their texture. Their soft, elongated bodies are covered in thousands of tiny rings and bumps, giving them a surface that looks uncannily like crumpled, slightly shiny velvet or flesh. Watching them move is a hypnotic and slightly unsettling experience. They possess rows of stubby, water-filled legs along their entire length, and these legs ripple in perfect, synchronized waves to propel the worm forward. The result is a movement so fluid it looks less like walking and more like a living, segmented ribbon gracefully gliding through the forest undergrowth. For all its squishy, ribbon-like grace, the velvet worm is an active and ruthless hunter. Its method of attack is unique and, frankly, shocking. When prey, usually a small insect, spider, or another invertebrate, comes into range, the velvet worm suddenly fires two targeted streams of quick-setting, sticky white slime from glands located near its mouth. This fast-moving slime instantly covers and immobilizes the victim, trapping it in a tangled mess against the substrate. The worm then slowly moves in to consume the helpless prey. This fantastic creature highlights the wild creativity of nature's design. The velvet worm is a bizarre and successful marvel, a perfect blend of unsettling appearance and highly specialized predatory power. It reminds us that some of the most successful organisms on the planet are the ones that look like they belong in a science fiction film, proving that the line between the fascinating and the outright grotesque is often one and the same. Blobfish, the sad face. If there were an award for the ocean's most tragically unfortunate face, the blobfish would win hands down. When floating in its deep-sea habitat, it looks fairly normal, adapted perfectly to the crushing pressures of the deep. But bring it to the surface, and suddenly it transforms into a droopy, saggy, melted version of, well, something that looks almost human. Its big nose, pouty lips, and drooping cheeks give it a permanent, sad expression that has made it an internet meme and the poster child for ugly animals. Despite its appearance, the blobfish is perfectly suited to life deep underwater, where its gelatinous body helps it hover above the seafloor without expending energy. Blobfish are a perfect reminder that appearances can be deceiving. What looks hilarious or grotesque to us is a masterstroke of evolution for survival in one of Earth's most extreme environments. Still, it's hard not to laugh, or wince, when you first see that droopy, human-like face. Giant clams, the smiling mouths. Giant clams are some of the ocean's most colorful and bizarre residents. At first, they look like massive, stationary shells lying on the seafloor, but open them up, and you'll be greeted by fleshy, brightly colored lips that almost seem to smile at you. From certain angles, the fleshy mantle and wide opening create the uncanny illusion of a massive mouth grinning up from the depths. Despite their strange, human-like appearance, these clams are harmless. They filter water to feed and rely on symbiotic algae within their tissues for nutrients, which also gives them their vibrant colors. Yet, for divers and underwater photographers, their resemblance to a smiling face is both mesmerizing and a little unnerving. Giant clams are a perfect example of nature's playful side, a living, breathing combination of utility and bizarre, almost cartoonish aesthetics that makes the ocean endlessly fascinating. Sea squirts, the openings. The sea squirt, or tunicate, is the final entry in this gallery of unsettling organisms, proving that the deep ocean holds the most strangely shaped life. These creatures are utterly simple in their function, but utterly bizarre in their form. A sea squirt is essentially a living, stationary sac anchored to rocks, piers, or coral, and its purpose is simply to pump water. What makes them so visually startling are their two prominent openings, or siphons. One siphon draws water in, bringing with it the plankton and tiny food particles the squirt needs to survive. The other siphon expels the filtered water and waste. These siphons often appear as two fleshy, slightly pouting tubes protruding from a soft, sometimes brightly colored body. It's the arrangement and texture of these simple openings that often makes them look awkwardly and unnervingly familiar to human observers, leading even veteran divers to squint and look away. Despite their simple, inappropriate-looking anatomy, sea squirts are biologically fascinating. They are effective filter feeders, tirelessly cleaning the water around them. Though they live most of their lives as stationary sacs, they begin as tiny, tadpole-like larvae that swim freely, complete with a nerve cord, making them surprisingly close relatives to vertebrates, animals with backbones like us. Once they find a suitable spot, they anchor themselves and undergo a dramatic transformation, losing most of their complex features and settling into their final, awkwardly tube-shaped adult form. The sea squirt is the ultimate reminder that functionality often wins over modesty in nature. Evolution will create whatever bizarre, effective, and occasionally inappropriate-looking solution it needs to survive. Penis snake. The discovery of the Atratochoana icelti in 2012 by engineers in Brazil immediately gave this creature one of the most unforgettable and inappropriate nicknames in modern science: the penis snake. This bizarre animal is actually a species of caecilian, which are limbless amphibians that look more like large, thick earthworms or small eels than typical frogs or salamanders. The shock factor comes from its smooth, fleshy, elongated body, which is entirely limbless, giving it an unmistakable and startling resemblance to human genitalia. It is precisely this uncanny form that caused the scientists who found it to stop and stare, making it an instant legend among weird biological discoveries. Beyond its suggestive appearance, this amphibian is biologically strange. Unlike most of its relatives, the Atratochoana icelti is completely lungless. It breathes entirely through its skin, absorbing the oxygen it needs directly from the cool, flowing water of the Amazon basin. This adaptation, combined with its rare and highly specialized form, only adds to its otherworldly, almost alien vibe. The penis snake is a truly astonishing example of how nature will sometimes create a functional, successful organism that is, simply put, hilariously suggestive and undeniably awkward to look at. Fat innkeeper worm, the penis fish. The fat innkeeper worm is one of the most infamously named and awkwardly shaped creatures to burrow beneath the ocean floor. Commonly nicknamed the penis fish, though it is a worm, not a fish, this spoon-shaped marine invertebrate earns its vulgar moniker due to its smooth, thick, and surprisingly long body. Its slightly wrinkled, fleshy, tubular form gives it an unmistakable and startling resemblance to human genitalia, a comparison that is impossible to unsee once the creature is spotted. Along the sandy seabeds of the Pacific coast, these worms anchor themselves deep within the sediment, often leaving only the tip of their bizarre, fleshy bodies exposed to the current. Despite its shocking and suggestive appearance, the fat innkeeper worm is a crucial and fascinating part of its ecosystem, deserving of its official name. It is a tireless filter feeder, consuming small particles and detritus from the sand, which helps keep the underwater environment clean and thriving. More importantly, it is a tiny, unsung hero of the sea floor because it digs intricate U-shaped burrows that serve as underwater apartment complexes. These durable, permanent homes provide essential shelter for a diverse and complex community of other creatures, including tiny crabs, shrimp, and small fish, which rely on the worm's burrow for protection. This unique worm proves that the natural world can create successful organisms that are equal parts functional, biologically bizarre, and hilariously suggestive, all wrapped up in one squishy, sandy package. Peanut worms, the phallic tubes of the sea. The peanut worm, scientifically known as sipuncula, is another marine organism that proves nature doesn't concern itself with human modesty. These simple ocean worms are found burrowing in soft sand or mud, and their cylindrical, fleshy bodies can be surprisingly suggestive, earning them a spot in the gallery of oddly shaped marine life. When the worm is relaxed or feeding, its body is a smooth, somewhat plump tube that can expand and contract. This long, soft, phallic shape is what causes observers to do a double take. The sight of a slightly wrinkled, fleshy tube wriggling through the sediment makes for a bizarre and unforgettable moment underwater. The animal's head end, called the introvert, can be quickly pulled back into the body when disturbed, causing the worm to contract into a short, stubby shape that resembles a peanut, which is how it earned its common name. Despite its humorous and awkward appearance, the peanut worm plays a vital, serious role in its environment. These creatures are essential for keeping the ocean floor healthy. As they burrow and tunnel through the sediment, they act as tiny recyclers, consuming organic material and helping to turn over and mix the mud and sand. This constant churning helps to aerate the sediment and recycle nutrients, making them crucial contributors to the health of the entire benthic ecosystem. The peanut worm is a perfect blend of the functional, a great burrower and recycler, and the hilariously inappropriate, reminding us that the ocean is full of strange, surprising shapes. Abalone. Abalones are large, edible marine snails, instantly recognizable by their flattened, ear-shaped shells lined with a neat row of holes for respiration. But beneath that elegant exterior lies something that makes divers and biologists do a double-take. The fleshy, curving mantle inside the shell can, at certain angles, looks surprisingly human-like, adding yet another ocean creature to the list of strangely suggestive forms. These mollusks aren't just visually fascinating, they're highly prized around the world for their rich, flavorful meat, making them a luxurious culinary delicacy. Meanwhile, their colorful, nacreous, mother-of-pearl shells are treasured for jewelry and crafts, their iridescent shimmer reflecting light like liquid rainbows. Abalones are found in coastal waters globally, but overfishing has severely impacted their populations. Today, many countries enforce strict harvesting laws, and aquaculture operations have sprung up to meet the continued demand for both meat and shells. The abalone is a perfect example of nature's duality: functional, beautiful, and sustainable, yet accidentally creating shapes that make humans do a double take. Its elegance, utility, and subtle uncanniness all rolled into one mesmerizing sea snail.